Hello everybody. Today I will be helping teach you guys and learn a little more about the sport of wrestling. So, I will be teaching you guys the rules of regulations, or at least some of them because there's a lot of them, the different styles, and a little bit of the history. So, for starters, did you guys know that since 1994 that the sport of girls high school wrestling alone has went from 804 wrestlers to over 32,000, which puts them at sixth place in all boys sports participation, which in sheer numbers alone is very high. So, just to jump into the history, wrestling is known as one of the oldest forms of combat and sport, dating back tens of thousands of years, evolving through different cultures and time. We know this through different cave arts in French cave art, Egyptian cave art, and Greek cave art. But with the French and Egyptian cave art, it looks as if it's more of a self-defense and hunting strategy, where the Greeks depicted it more as a science and an art, proving that it was more of a sport by depicting different ways to win. So, in the Middle Ages, wrestling still went rampant through Europe. And about 7,000 BC, they added wrestling to the Olympic Games. And then we're going to jump all the way to the 18th century. In the 18th and 19th century, freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman wrestling were created. These will both be added into the Olympic Games, and these will be two of the main three different styles of wrestling. So from the 19th century to today, in the United States, we used a form of wrestling called folk style wrestling. And we are pretty much the only country to predominantly use folk style wrestling. In 1903, wrestling was officially a college sport, having the first ever collegiate duel in 1903. And in 1993, the first ever all-girls high school wrestling team was officially sanctioned. Now that I've talked a little bit about the history, I'm going to jump into the styles that we've already mentioned. So I'm going to talk about folk style because freestyle and Greco are pretty similar. So in folk style, you're allowed to attack the legs. And if I take you down, that's worth 3 points. And if I get a reversal, that's worth 2 points. Now, if I put you in a danger position, which means I have your back at a 45-degree angle on the mat, that means that I'm going to get these things called strokes. And depending on how many I get is how many points I get. Now, if you hold them there from 2 to 5 seconds, depends on how many points you get, from 2 to 5 points. So now, in Greco-Roman, all you can do is attack the upper body. I can't attack your legs at all. If I attack your legs, that's a result of a penalty and I will lose points. So, in Greco-Roman, reversals and escapes are also a little different. Instead of 2 points, they're worth 1 point. But in Greco-Roman and freestyle, there are things called big moves, big throws, where I can throw you over my back for 5 points, or throw you onto your back for 4 points. Or if I throw you and you land on your stomach, that's only 2 points. But, can't do that in folk style. Now, in freestyle, I like to think freestyle is Greco-Roman and folk style kind of mixed together. I can do all those big moves I just mentioned, but I can also attack their legs for 3 points. In Greco-Roman and freestyle, there are also things called back exposure points, where if I expose your back to the mat for even just a split second, that's worth 2 points. So now that I've talked about the styles a little bit, I'm going to go into the rules of these styles. So they all pretty much are very similar. In each style, if you hold your opponent on their back to the mat for more than 3 seconds, it's a pin and you automatically win. Now, tech falls are if you score a certain amount of points more than them. In folk style, it's 15 points. In freestyle, it's 10 points. In Greco, it's 8 points. In Greco, like I said, we can't touch the legs. And they have the specific scoring for the big moves. Folk style doesn't have that. So in folk style, there are also things called locked hand calls, which you can only do in certain positions. If I started naming all those positions, we would be here all day. You also can't pull on any clothes or any headgear. That's illegal on both sides. there are weight classes in wrestling that you have to make. There's about 10 of them on average. There's 125, 133, 144, 149, 157, 165, 172, 184, 195, and 285. In high school, there's 12 weight classes. But in high school, there also isn't a 184 weight class. They add 120, 113, and 106. So now, I hope by the end of this, you guys learned a little more about the rules, or learned a little more about the rules and the history of wrestling, as well as the different styles. And I just hope next time that you guys think of a winter sport, instead of thinking of basketball or swimming, we think of wrestling, because it is the funnest. And go Bears.